If you don't believe it yourself, how on earth will the person on the other side believe it?
Welcome to the Kingspiration podcast. This is the place where you'll learn how to get unstuck and gain momentum in your life and business. Each week, we tackle the real aspects of entrepreneurship, personal development, relationships, and fitness. I'm your co-host, Ethan King from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa, entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures, sharing wisdom and experiences to propel you forward. Welcome to Kingspiration. Let's start the conversation.
Today, I want to chat to Ethan about this idea of eager versus desperate, or eagerness versus desperation. And I got thinking about this in a recent forum that I was hosting. And it was, the question that came up is what is one thing that you have recently or in the recent past started viewing or thinking about differently or changed your perspective on? This is what immediately came to mind for me, is this eagerness versus desperation, and particularly in a sales sense. And this is what I was thinking about in that session. In a sales sense, you're always wanting to be eager. Whether you're selling yourself, you're selling a product, you're selling a service, you're always wanting to be eager with the person that you are engaging or the organization that you are engaging. But how do you tread that line between being so eager that you come across as desperate? And it would be the same as looking for a partner. If you are pursuing somebody to take them on a date, how do you show them that you are eager and interested versus that individual is desperate and that they're not wanting to have anything to do with you? So that's where my mind is at, Ethan. Eager versus desperate. What are your thoughts?
People can smell desperation. It's like a sixth sense that we have, right? And it's a turnoff in any context, in a business landscape, relationships. Desperation turns people off because it makes people feel like we have our own like internal security measures, right? As humans, so we're always trying to protect ourselves. Like it comes from our survival instinct. So when the other side is desperate, it kind of sends this trigger like, oh, there must be more in it for them. Like, are they going to somehow hurt me? Like if I give in to this thing, it's going to benefit them and probably hurt me in some way. I think that sends a message to our subconscious when we sense that desperation. Like, why is this person so desperate? So it scares us away. So the question is like, how do you overcome that? What if you really are feeling desperate? What if you're a salesperson who, you need to land this contract because you have to pay your bills, you have to pay your mortgage, and you need this $10,000 to hit? And what if you really are desperate, but you don't want to give off those desperation vibes? How does one do that?
It's probably starting with a self-audit, and I'll share what I think is a relatively embarrassing anecdote or something that I do. And I've got a terrible habit of in any exchange of either emails or WhatsApp messages, I feel that I have to be the last one to have sent something. So whether that is just a thumbs up, a fist bump, or a thanks very much, or appreciate it, I feel that I haven't shown my intent, whether it's for the relationship or the intent, whether it's for the sale, whatever that may be, if I haven't been the last one to add something to the exchange. And I'll be honest, that's what got me thinking about, well, is that not, what is that, Justin? Is that eager? Is that smacking of some desperation in some way? Why do you need to do that? So maybe a starting point is doing some form of a self-audit around how do you show up in exchanges, and what are things that you think could be perceived in a way other than just being purely eager, and stop doing some of those rather than necessarily trying to do something completely different. What can you just tone down or stop doing? And that's one thing that I noted about myself is don't always have to be that last one. That's a little bit, as I say, it can come across a little bit desperate at times.
Yeah. For me, I focus on delivering value first. And I once heard someone say, whenever you're on stage or you're making a pitch, divorce your attachment to the outcome. Just focus on delivering value to the other person on the receiving end, whether that's your prospect or whether you're speaking to a crowd, it would be the crowd. And it's like, instead of what do I get out of this, how much can I pour into the other person and educate them? I think education is the best form of sales. And I've found that I've just kind of discovered this in my own life where like teaching about the AI. I started out by just sharing people. Like I was just eager to help other people like learn this. Like, this is so cool. This helped me in my business. Here, I want to show you how to do it. And now more and more opportunities have opened up. And I think when you give from that place, it changes everything. It changes your body language. It changes your tone, because you can't be desperate if you're pouring out, right? Desperation is needing something to come in, needing to receive. But if you focus on pouring out, then people will naturally want to give back to you. It's the law of reciprocation. So many doors have opened in my life by just coming from a sense of educating and giving freely. And I mean, and then you get to a point where now, in fact, I'm on calls with people every day that reach out to me asking me to come speak at their event. And it's like now I have some leverage, because I'm like, do I really want to be gone for 3 days? And I won't do it below a certain dollar amount. Whereas I used to speak for free all the time to build up my speaking career. But now it's like, I'm not going to come out of the house if it's not at least this amount, because that means I'd rather be with my family. Because if I go somewhere now, it pretty much takes 3 days, because I always go a day in advance, because flights could be delayed or canceled. And then depending on how late the event goes, I might have to come back on the third day. So it's a big commitment. And when you come from that position of, I don't really need this, then you hold the leverage and people sense that, and it makes them want to work with you more.
I think you've opened a can of worms. So I completely get what you're saying. But basically, the desperation thing is where you want to get to is you don't ever want to be saying to somebody, I need you more than you need me. You almost want that to exchange to be the other way around as much as you can. Like, you need me more than I need you is a great place to be. But you want I don't want to say an equal exchange of value, but you want an exchange of value. The can of worms that I'm referring to when you say that you want to make sure that you are giving as much value as possible is, where do you draw the line that doesn't become desperate? In that you're trying to sell something and then you haven't quite got it across the line. And then you start saying, okay, well, then I will just join that team call for free and I'll do that for free. And so you're giving more value, but it's now coming from this place of desperation rather than just from a place of, I suppose, giving enough value that you get them on the hook and then closing the lid on that value jar to say, well, I've given you a taste.
Right.
Now you know where to get the rest. So how do you balance that? Because I agree with what you're saying, but I struggle to know when to close the jar.
I say give enough to where the person is leaning in. You can tell when they're leaning in for more, and then you can go into, that's when you can transition into, okay, well, if you want to take next steps, here's how to work with me. And then that's your sales part. But you went in with just the object of educating. Then when they lean in, then you transition to the next thing. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Yeah, no, it does. I think you do. You definitely want to give that value up front. I do feel that where a lot of desperation comes in is in the exchanges post that interaction. It's the follow-ups where people start, I'm sorry for being a nuisance and sorry for this. And I just want to follow up. And it's as if you're treading on people's toes by asking that question. And maybe that's also a good place to really for people to start notching down on that desperation and just showing that you're interested and you're eager to get it across the line. It's not apologizing, not feeling that you're being a nuisance, not using the word just. And there's a great line when you haven't heard back from somebody, that a wonderful line to use is, I take it your priorities have changed. If not, would love to hear from you to continue our conversation. Works like gold. And it doesn't feel like being desperate at all. Yes, you want to move the conversation forward, but I'm ready when you are. And that's kind of the mindset. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, that's right. And it's almost like that you got to have this little bit of a level, I don't want to call it arrogance, but it's a knowing that I'm providing value to you. Like, look, if you don't book me for this thing, that's your loss. It's like I got other people who will book me for it and they're going to get the value, but you're the one missing out. It's almost like you got to have that mindset. But in order to have that mindset, you have to know that you are truly delivering value to the other side.
Great point. If you don't believe it yourself, how on earth will the person on the other side believe it? Yep, great point. 100%. That's a great. I think that's a great place to end it off. So ensure that you are staying eager, not desperate. And as a starting point, believe the value that you are bringing to the table, because the other person will not believe it if you do not believe it yourself.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Kingspiration. We hope this conversation sparked insights to ignite action in your life and business.
We're on this journey together, sharing our challenges and successes to help all of us take the next step towards building momentum and ultimately reaching our goals.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit and leave us a 5-star review.
And remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly conversations. Until next time, keep rolling, keep growing, and keep being inspired.